Oil in the coolant but not coolant in the oil. Here's why. This is one of those tricky situations that can happen in an internal combustion engine, where fluids that are supposed to be entirely separate mix in unintended ways. It's not common, but it does occur. Here's a breakdown of how oil can end up in your coolant while the reverse doesn't happen. Head gasket issues. The most common culprit is a blown head gasket. The head gasket serves as a seal between the engine block and cylinder head, and it contains passages for both oil and coolant. When this gasket fails, it can create channels for fluids to mix. Depending on the location of the failure, you might see oil in the coolant, but not vice versa. Cracked engine block or cylinder head cracks in the engine block or the cylinder head can also cause this issue. These components have passages for oil and coolant, and a crack can connect these passages. If the oil pressure is higher than the coolant pressure, which it often is, oil can seep into the coolant. But since the pressure difference is directional, coolant might not infiltrate the oil passage. Oil cooler problems. Some engines use an oil cooler that transfers heat from the oil to the coolant. If the oil cooler fails internally, oil can leak into the coolant. Since the oil system typically operates at higher pressures, oil gets pushed into the coolant rather than the other way around. Pressure differences oil runs at a higher pressure than coolant, generally speaking. So, in case there's a breach due to a bad head gasket, cracked block, or faulty oil cooler, the oil's higher pressure means it'll push into the coolant system before coolant has a chance to backflow into the oil system. Diagnostics. To accurately diagnose the problem, you'll need to look for other symptoms like white smoke from the exhaust, overheating, or loss of coolant without visible leaks. A mechanic would likely perform a compression test, leak down test, or use a chemical test to detect exhaust gases in the coolant. Why no coolant in oil? Simply put, it comes down to the pressure differences. The oil system's greater pressure ensures that when a breach occurs, oil seeps into the coolant lines, not the other way around. Conclusion. If you see oil in your coolant, address it promptly. Ignoring this issue can lead to major engine damage. For those of you in Portland, Oregon, like me, our rainy weather might mask early symptoms like minor leaks, so regular maintenance is crucial. Get your car checked out by a professional to pinpoint and resolve the issue before it escalates.